welcome to the show. Now, I know it's probably the first time you're seeing me this year because I've been on a nice break, but I'm starting with some interesting guests. And that could be international guests, people making a difference around the world. Rania Awwad is here, and she is an activist. She's from Palestine, and she's got this lengthy history which I want to talk to you about. But I'm going to give her the opportunity to tell us who exactly she is. Rania, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
I know we met just before the show, and I've been reading up on some of the work you've been doing around the world and some of the activist work you've been doing. And we've chatted a bit about your history and that sort of thing, which sort of catches my eye because it's very interesting, and I think it's an inspiration to many people. Rania Awwad, we need to understand who you are, where you come from, and what's that mark you're leaving in the world?
Well, my name is Rania Awwad, as you said, coming from Palestine, Christian, born in Bethlehem. This is just for the people, for those who don't know that there's Christians in Palestine, and this is one of the things that I wanted to speak about and pass a message for people to understand or to educate people about our struggle in Palestine. And as a journalist, it's not always easy to be objective about a subject, but I'm a journalist and a human rights activist. And my role is to add something that might be a change for for those who's already in struggle with Palestine and they understand the cause, and for also those who don't know anything about Palestine and what is going on right now.
Rania, I want to take one step back in all of this, and we sort of look at your mission today and we understand that is who Rania is today in 2016. But all of that had to be precipitative of events that might have occurred in your life that has inspired you to do what you do. And I suppose living in Palestine and the images we see of Palestine and the Middle East region that's in turmoil, in our view as South Africans most of the time, looking at the visuals we see in mass media. So we see a struggle happening, we see bloodshed, we see people crying, and we see lots of things when we look at Palestine. Now, you have been brought up in that environment, you are a Palestinian citizen. That obviously had to be one of the defining points in your life that made you to become an activist. Tell us a bit about that childhood in Palestine.
Well, I think it's one of the reasons that I wanted to become a journalist is to tell the truth and to say what's going on in Palestine, what's happening really. Having lived the first Intifada, the second Intifada, and now living the third Intifada a little bit from outside. But yes, I wanted to tell people what we went through as a child.
So at this point, we, as viewers, we see you as little girl running around in Palestine. We see that all the time today. Yes. But now this is you, having grown up, having actually walked that road. I really want to know about that.
Well, if I speak about me, it is also about all Palestinians, my generation and the actual generation and my father's generation. We all went through difficult times in childhood, and me personally, I still have scars from those days, from the first Intifada, which we didn't have school. They closed the schools. We had schools, we call it the area schools. If you have an extra room, it will be the grade 1. If you have 2 extra rooms, that will be grade 2, and etc., etc. But this is why my parents wanted us to study, to learn, to educate us. So we went to border school, my sister and I, and myself, and my 2 brothers went to another border school. So we were detached from the family. But then,
is this a normal circumstance in Palestine, where families are sort of detached from each other?
We are very family. We are very family.
You're family orientated, but circumstances sometimes forces you to be living apart.
Yes, and also because we couldn't even, because my school was in Jerusalem and we live in Bethlehem, and so we have checkpoints, and it was not easy. I mean, still not easy. You have to have a permission, and it doesn't. They don't give you the Israelis. They don't give you easily the permission. You have to apply for it, and they will look at your profile if you didn't do anything wrong to them, etc., etc. So it's a long procedure to get a permission. Yes, we went through the curfews, we went through hunger, we went through many difficult time. I mean, to wake up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I always repeat it, you know, it's one of my traumas to wake up violently, you know, someone to wake me up violently with a big noise or screaming.
That could set you off for the entire day, because the way that you wake up in the morning could sort of set the tone for the entire day.
Yes, but they used to wake up us at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. We were children, and they will use the M16, we remember very well, and they will knock on our doors and windows to wake up all the male of the house, you know, like cousins and brothers and uncles and a grandfather, to go out to the street and to clean up the streets and to paint the walls where the activists will put something and write some slogans or some protests or something like that. So yes, it was to take our neighbors to prison, to have seen also our neighbors to be shot in front of us. We were collecting, in fact, the bullets, you know, we were kids. I think now if you speak about Palestinian children, you know, even 5 years old boy or girl will speak politics to you. I mean, this is, it is sad. For me now, grown-up person, I think it's sad. I wished I had a childhood. This is one of the things that...
Did you feel that you missed the childhood? Now living in France and seeing this is what a normal child would grow up like, do you feel that's really missing?
You know, I tell you a little secret, but now it will not be a secret. My first doll was when I was 25 years old, and it's because I was in France.
25 years old?
Yes.
And you always wanted that from a child?
Yes, and it was my first Barbie, in fact. So it is very precious to me, this Barbie. And it's very cheap Barbie. You know, it's not something like special to speak about it, but it means a lot to me. Because when, and it happened in France, and they were shocked when I told them, we had a subject when we were at university about the Barbie to speak, to write an article. And I said, but I have no idea what is Barbie. I never had a Barbie, and for my 25 years...
This was a subject at university?
Yes.
Very interesting.
It was 25 years, so for my birthday, my classmates, they offered me a Barbie. I saw it, so it was like really the word to me, because I never thought also to buy myself one, because I never like grew up with this like dolls and...
So what would a typical day be for a Palestinian child back in your time? Knowing that you went through the intifadas and that sort of thing. So we're looking at a very critical time in Palestinian history. What was your typical day like? It started off maybe with people with rifles by the door, shouting. During the day, what was it? School? Were schools disrupted? What would you do as a little girl in Palestine?
Well, in the 80s, during the first Intifada, it was in and on. I mean, we went to school, but sometimes we have curfews for weeks, and we would have only 2 hours to go, and in a week, you know, 2 hours for the city to go and to buy what they need. So, yes, so we didn't have school all the time, and so that's why we wanted to continue our education. So all the neighbors kind of donated one room for this grade, etc., etc. We still have photos of those days.
So was this like a little school that was created there?
Yes,
like a home school?
To keep us, you know, busy with something, and which is educational. But then when we don't have these curfews, we wanted always to be outside because of the curfews, that we have to stay in the house. We were not allowed. They will shout paytak, which just means home. You know, you can't go get out. They will shoot you, or they will scare you, or they will arrest you. The Israeli forces, I'm talking, and. So yes, we went through a difficult time, but so when we used not to have the curfew, we just wanted to be out, play the little games with nothing. You know, this is our games. You know, in the street with the I don't know what they call them, but it's the traditional.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Things that you play in the area or with your brothers and sisters outside. This is what we wanted. We wanted to be in the fields outside, and unfortunately, as children, we were only collecting bullets. You know, the caoutchouc one and the rubber ones, and even the lies. What I don't know what it's called in English, but yes, we were collecting them, and it was also a crime if they find them with you. But we used to find them in the fields because they also work.
Now, I want to take you one step back in South African society, and when we look at media, for example, and we look at different legislations around what people can be exposed to, things are sort of controlled. So this means that our kids are not used to seeing certain things, and if they see those things on TV, there are regulations around that's imposed, and apart from that, a parent wouldn't want their child to watch television where someone's running around with a gun shooting someone, and there might be blood and brain splatter and whatever you want to call that. So that's television and media, and that's the South African context. How does that relate to Palestine? Because here, in my mind, I see children that are exposed to these kind of things in a very real life situation. Is that true? As a child, are you exposed to death? And do you come face to face with death?
Yes, yes. In fact, they don't need the media to be aware about what's happening and going around. My brother, I mean, I remember that day, during it was also the Gulf War, that day it was a curfew, and he was, because we have my grandparents living on the street side and we living in a valley, and there's a mountain also, and my brother wanted to go to bring something from my grandparents, you know, and because he was outside, they followed him and they scared him, and they was shooting, but like really just to scare him, and then he climbed on a wall that's very high, but it was barbelated, it was you know,
like a barbed wire.
Yes,
kind of thing.
and
Yes.
he hurt himself. He cut his vein. I mean, he almost died. So yes, every day you are exposed. Not you know, you have bombs on your head. You have tears on you. You have lots of, yes, you are exposed to danger all the time, as children, as women, as elder people, everybody. There is no, and I want to precise, it's not only Muslims, it's not only, it's all all Palestinians.
There's a misconception around that, and I personally, for a long time, and therefore was happy about the chat that we had the other day, because I know that there's a misconception, and maybe some people are going to chastise me for saying what I'm saying. But in South Africa, we tend to believe that when we talk about Palestinian, that we're talking about Muslim. You've come here and you've told me that we are wrong. Tell me about that.
You know, Faisal, I never had to put a cross in to say to people, to introduce myself. Oh, my name is Rania Awwad. I'm from Palestine, Bethlehem, Christian. This is not
But you're seeming to do that in South Africa.
Not only in South Africa, but around the world, all the time, because they made our struggle as a religious struggle and cause.
You disagree? Are you saying this is a political matter, and this has got nothing to do with religion?
Nothing to do with religion. It's not Muslims against Jews or Christians against Muslims or whatever in your, I mean, in their minds, you know. But it's oppression, it's humiliation, it's theft, it's apartheid. You know the word apartheid. I mean, most of the South Africans know apartheid. Stealing our lands, our rights, our childhood.
So you deem Israel, and you are happy to say apartheid Israel?
Yes, of course. Yeah. if it's not apartheid,
That's my sentiment too.
if it's not apartheid, I don't know what it's mean. When you live in Palestine, you see how much is, like, I have a green card, you know, ID. My best friends or my cousins, they will have a blue ID because they live in Jerusalem, for example. And I have even cousins from my mother's side, which is Nazareth. They have the citizenship, the Israeli citizenship. So we don't have the same rights, all of us. I can't travel from Palestine with an aeroplane. I have to go through Jordan, and it's quite a struggle just to go out. So yes, they have taken from us everything: the human rights, to exist, to move around, certain education, like which I wanted to do when I was a child. Always I was interested in history and archaeology, and which is forbidden for a while, you know, and it's very, very strict to become archaeologist. And they are taking the water, stealing the water from us, lands, whenever they want. They built a shameful wall, separated families, cousins, brothers from each other. Schools also, they have people, I mean children, they have to take the ladder with them to go and to cross it. You know, we are just people like resistant, you know, we don't want to give up on our land, beloved for Palestine, which now they are trying in every way to say that it can't exist or didn't exist because the P doesn't exist in the Arabic alphabet. But in fact, Palestinians, we don't say Palestine, we say Palestine. Yes. So we don't have the P, but we have the F, which is Palestine. So they're trying in all ways to deny of the existence of Palestine. And I found around the world, since I'm, you know, out of Palestine, that they have a very, you know, misunderstanding or a bad image about Palestinians. That it's all about religion, about Al-Aqsa, about hatred between Jews and Israel and Muslims, which is completely wrong. Because
you outright disagree that it's not about that, and there are deeper causes behind all of this conflict.
Yes, and because we do have also Jews, Palestinian Jews. They are indigenous Palestinian Jews that nobody, I mean, few people will speak about them. They are 5,000 Jews, Palestinians originally, and they are not involved in the army and in all these.
What is that relationship? What's that relationship between the Jew and the Muslim that lives in Palestine itself? What's that like? For example, we get into the road, we go and purchase something, or we run into somebody. Is there an amicable relationship, or is there an antagonistic relationship that's going on there? I'm talking about the people on the ground. I'm not talking about the people up there.
Well, it's in Palestine, you mean? In Palestine? Well, it's different. You know, in the settlements, it's very closed. You know, you can't approach them. But the settlers, in general, are very violent, and they're all armed. You know, even children, they are armed. So it's very difficult to deal with them and to say good morning to them.
So Palestinians and Muslims and Christians are not really.
No. But I mean, you know, Palestinians in general, Christians, Muslims, Druze, and Jews. You know, originally we were living together in peace until the Zionists came to take our lands.
That's another misconception with regards to Zionism and Jews.
Yes.
I think you mentioned to me that there's no issue with the Jews. We're talking about the Zionists, and people need to separate Zionists and Jews.
Yes, I mean, we do not have a problem with the Jewish people. I lived with Jews also in Palestine, Jerusalem. I know what they are not. I mean, we're humans, but I mean, it's different for me to the Zionist. If you tell me, are you anti-Zionist? Yes, of course, I'm anti-Zionist and anti-apartheid and anti-Israeli, yeah.
Any form of oppression and any embodiment of oppression, yes. You'd be against that. Rania, I want to put you in perspective with a particular example. So you are sitting somewhere right? We understand that Palestinian society now is a very traumatized society as a result of what they've been inflicted by. They are probably disjointed to a certain degree, and obviously there are socioeconomic problems that comes with all of that. As an individual, you sitting somewhere, someone lets off firecrackers. How does that affect you?
This is I know why you asked this question anyway. In fact, yes, it's one of my traumas. In fact, is I don't like fireworks. I don't like bangs and all this stuff.
Obviously, that came from the idea that from childhood, you were exposed to all of those things happening all the time.
Yes, and in France, for example, they were shocked because the fireworks, they are very nice, beautiful to see, to watch, but for me the sound, it is just, I screamed. Recently, well, in December, last December, I was invited to a play that it was about Palestine, and unfortunately they used bombs, and I was invited to give a speech about the Palestinian life, etc., because the play was about that. And during the play, there was, they used sounds. I really didn't. It was just natural that I threw away my papers, and I just stood up and I was shaking and crying. And some of them they understood, but some other people they didn't understand why I reacted like that. But it makes me really like shaking, and I can't breathe, and I just can't deal with it, for the moment. And
so obviously you have a level of anxiety that happens when that happens.
Faizal, this is one of the little things, and it's a little story, but I can tell you many other people's neighbors, friends, cousins, they have traumas like even worse. This is nothing like a drop in an ocean, what I'm telling you about what's going on right now, especially right now. But every single Palestinian has a story to tell, has a trauma to deal with, has a sadness in his heart, but
and has lost many people.
Yes, but what it joins us, these two things, is our dignity and proudness to be Palestinians, but also the hope that we teach to people, in fact, every morning. And yes, we do have hope. We are not giving up our land.
Of course. Now, I want to cite another example to you. So we are walking somewhere in the roads in Palestine. I haven't had the liberty and pleasure of being there. I've been to the Middle East a few times, but generally, I suppose as South Africans, we are a bit cautious about always going around that way because of conflict and that sort of thing. And especially, as you know, with people in media, we are the first ones that are being stopped. So effectively, I want to give you an example. Walking down the road in Palestine, you drop something like your cell phone, for example. So is there a sense of fear? Because generally, you know that when people pick up things in the road, it might be assumed that they're picking up a rock or something like that. And there's always eyes watching in the way that I see it. How do you react to things like that? Is there a level of stress involved in that?
Yes, this is in fact what's happening right now in Palestine for this third Intifada. They are scared from everything, like even yesterday the best friend of my brother was chatting to me, and I heard him saying, I love Palestine, it's in my heart, but I'm just fed up, I'm tired. And he's just a young 20s, and he wants to live his life because they are scared. If they drop a cell phone, they will, the Israelis, they will be on the wall watching, and they will think that it will be a rock or something, etc. They will shoot him and to death, not even to think to hurt him first, by shooting his head. No.
So they're employing a zero tolerance, basically.
Yes, but not only that, what I also heard from my best friend in Jerusalem, Mary, she said to me, Rania, because of what's happening now, there's also like operations where they accuse the Palestinians to do car accidents into settlers or Zionists or Israelis. She told me, I'm afraid to have an accident, by, like everybody can have an accident, so she drives on 40, because she's afraid to have an accident and they will accuse her of terrorism. This is the
it's the subtle fears.
Yes, and it's the easy way of pretending that, okay, it's a pretext that she wanted to kill us, so we kill her. And they don't try to deal with it. You will see, on the 14th of February, the entire world was celebrating the day of love, and with roses, red roses and hearts and gifts. Except in Palestine, the Israelis, the so-called Israel and the Israeli forces decided that the way how to celebrate it with Palestinians to kill them. And 6 young Palestinians have been killed in a cold blood, leaving them on the floor. While they could also leave the medics to come in to deal with them, but not. And they are 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. So you can imagine which age they are targeting, the youth. Since the beginning of the Intifada, since October, we had only the oldest is 35, 38. So you can imagine that they are targeting the youth. And this is not for nothing. So it's the strategy. But what I'm also very disappointed, and I think a lot of people will agree about it, it is the mainstream media. We don't cover these things. I can only get my news from the social media and from other sources than the TV, BBC and CNN and etc., because I don't see the truth, what I hear from my family. And when you have a father who's going to work every morning, but you don't know if he's coming back, this is also, we don't speak about it.
I was actually going to pose a question to you related to that, because we spoke about the children. And obviously when you speak about children, you always talk about the protectors of children, and the protectors of children are the parents. How does a parent normally feel knowing that, look, my example, I go out and yes, I might be at a certain age, but still when I take my car out at night, my mother would still be a bit concerned if I was coming in late at night, and why are you that late, and why didn't you come back earlier? The roads are dangerous, it's Friday night, that sort of thing. So what is it for a Palestinian parent knowing that your child could go out picking up a stone or cell phone that might have fallen and maybe get shot? I don't know. Is there not another level of stress when it comes to being a parent in Palestinian society?
It's a huge stress.
Completely don't know if your children are coming back. That's for sure.
Yeah, but there's no life, in fact, like nightlife. There's no nightlife because there's nothing.
So there's no recreation at all?
No, there's checkpoints everywhere. There's a wall separating cities and villages. To go from a village to village, it can take you a day. From a village to village, like from Bethlehem to Jerusalem, it's just 10 kilometers. It's nothing. Where my father goes every day, but he has to take from 1 hour. It's the minimum 1.5 hours to 6 hours waiting on the checkpoints. So it's, in fact, he's losing his day just waiting his turn to come. And there's no life or anything to do. And plus what's going on right now is in danger, dangerous situation, etc. They are trying to avoid to go out, etc. Yes, we are worried about our children because the Israeli forces, they don't think like us.
Hey, what's your message to South Africa and the rest of Africa? I know that you have messages to impart to us. Where we could do things better to assist. I know it's not always easy to assist from our side. I think there are some organizations that are trying to raise their voice, and maybe there are more organizations and other cultures and religions that need to be part of that. In South Africa, my personal view is that we find 1 or 2 communities standing up for the matter, but I think that, as you said, this is not a religious matter, that this matter, it doesn't matter what religion you come from. or what social background you come from. You need to stand up for all injustices in the world. And that's what every religion advocates in any case. Based on that and what I've just mentioned, what's your message to South Africans and how, in terms of how we could do things better to help the cause out there in Palestine?
Well, my first message would be is to thank them for having me here in South Africa. And I felt the warmth and the love from them, all South Africans, really. Honestly, I really appreciate, and that's why I'm in love with this country, and specifically Cape Town, because I'm just based here now. But maybe my voice is the voice of the Palestinians, my people, my parents, my family, my friends, my comrades, and I would like to tell the South Africans and Africans in the whole world, our struggle, it's not about religion, it's more about humanity. I just try to raise the voice of the Palestinians, to tell the people it's, understand our struggle, do it right, don't aggravate it, because, involving religions these days, it's not really what it's going to solve our issue in Palestine. It's aggravating it, and it's not about religion. It's not only about Al-Aqsa. It's not about Christians or Jews. It's all about humanity. And also, in fact, I'm also giving a message to not only the Muslims, but the Muslims, because they do struggle for Palestine. They do understand the situation, or they are knowledgeable about the situation in Palestine, but maybe they are not educated about the struggle. What is the struggle and what is the real cause? But also the Christians in South Africa, I didn't hear from them. So I was even surprised that I met with Christians that they are supporting Israel and the Zionists, and they send money. They in fact funded the Israeli army, and I was completely shocked. So why? Because they have no idea about the situation, and they don't have enough information about it. So I invite them to go to Palestine and see themselves what life looks like, and to meet with Palestinians, to try to read both sides, and to make their judgment, not to rely on what the only media says, because most of the medias of the world are controlled by the Zionists, unfortunately, and this is a truth, not as conspiracy. Is it coming from France, where I worked as a journalist and I have been censored many times. I have been threatened by not having work, etc. if I open my mouth, etc., etc. And also the fact to be Palestinian outside of Palestine itself, it's a struggle to be Palestinian, because we are seen as terrorists. So I always say, do you think that really we look like terrorists in this? I don't know if there's an image for a terrorist. Well, for me, in my mind, yes. When I see Israeli forces, or for me, they are terrorists. But yes, they have.
Obviously, by definition, they are. Anyone that's terrorizing anybody is a terrorist.
Yes, but we are educated people. We are cultivated, and we are knowledgeable. We are intelligent. We are smart. We are sensitive. We are artists. We have lots of things to know about Palestinians. Then to think that we are only terrorists, they only see one side, kind of, the situation, and they not the other one. And we don't have weapons. How can we be the terrorists if we don't have weapons to defend ourselves?
Well, Rania, yesterday I looked at an article where I think 2 youth were killed earlier this week, and 2 Palestinian youth by the Israeli forces. And the interesting thing about that, and we hear the story every day, it's every day the same story, but the names change. So the story was 2 youth were throwing rocks at Israeli forces and they were shot dead. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's a bully situation. It's a complete bully, because it's fat big guy busy bullying the small guy. And that's simply because you got a rock and I got a gun. The two does not equate by any standards. So how that is justice, or how that is a means to halt the problem, does not seem justified or controllable in my view. So we have a sad situation on hand. And I perhaps want to ask you to impart one more message to our public before we end the show.
Well, don't make it religion. It's not about religion. This is really main thing. I hope my voice will reach the people in South Africa, to those who don't know anything about Palestine, but also to those who do know, and they do have some mistakes to correct in their struggle for Palestine, because my father is a Palestinian Christian. He's also having his life, risking his life every day to feed his children. As my neighbor also, he's a Muslim, and he's risking his life every day to feed his children, you know. I mean, also when we don't ask each other, Christian Muslims, we are in one struggle. This is one thing, and I hope my voice will reach also Christian communities and churches, to know about Christians, Palestinians. They're also under pressure and under attack. Also, they attack churches, and they threatening the Palestinian Christians of killing them, etc., etc. They are oppressed from the Israelis because they are supporting they are Palestinians, but because we are minority now. So I think this is also they are getting, you know, like the strong against the weak. So yes, if you want to support Palestine, there's many ways, but start by understanding the struggle. It's about humanity, it's about rights. It's nothing to do with religion.
Thank you, Rania. Thank you for coming onto the show. I'm hoping to catch up with you soon again, and I do hope that South Africans take heed to the message that you've imparted, and that, yes, you're right, that we become more educated about the causes that we do get involved with. Rania Awwad, and with some very interesting information, very sad information at certain times. As I'm going through the show, I sort of feel that my hands are tied, and we all feel that way, that our hands are tied, because we're looking at a despotic Israeli force, an evil Israeli force, one that is causing a blackness in this world, creating a hole in this world, creating dissension, creating sadness, and something that we cannot stand with, and that is the evil state of Israel.